Right, can you hear me? Welcome back to my workshop. Now today I'm going to try something that's very dangerous. Now I don't want any of you to try this at home. This is me doing stupid stuff. I accept no responsibility for what you do in your workshops. This is just me. Right, now that's out of the way. If you've been watching my videos over the last few weeks, you would have noticed that there's an array of bottles have appeared. Okay, the idea is what I want to do is I want to cut these bottles to about this big, cut them, make candles out of them, and then make a wooden lid to go on the top. That's the idea. Now to cut a normal bottle like this, obviously it's glass, you'd use a normal glass cutter and you'd make some sort of jig so you can cut it horizontal line all the way around, and then you heat it and cool it and it snaps and everything's groovy. Anyway, last night we had a bit of a gathering and we ended up with this bottle, which is a nice bottle of Procecco. Other brands are available, but this bottle has got this design on it. Now obviously it's still glass, but I'm not going to be able to cut it using a normal conventional glass cutter, okay, because it won't cut. So what I want to do is I want to try and cut this with an angle grinder. Right, okay, an angle grinder, that sounds a bit dodgy. Not only do I want to cut it with an angle grinder, I also want to put it in my lathe. As I say, don't try this at home. Right, let me show you. I'm going to mount this in the lathe. So the idea is I'm going to put this somehow in my lathe. Now obviously I can't clamp it on anything, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a rubber bung like this little fella here so it sits in the base. Okay, not clamped, just sitting in the base so it centralizes it. Now I'm not going to be spinning the lathe up, I'm just using it so I can keep it circular. Okay, and what I'm going to do is put this little rubber bung in my lathe here. Okay, so that's now going to be centralized. So it sits in the base of here, like that. Then at this end, my tailstock end, what I'm going to do is I put my chuck in here, normal chuck, and I've pulled the jaws out so they just nose into the bottle. Okay, so it's mounted on the lathe, not tight, nothing's tight, just so I can spin it or turn it by hand and it stays in the same plane. That's the idea. Okay, I'm not going to spin it up, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug my lathe like this. Okay, so I definitely can't spin it up. Right, so now I've got that turning in a proper circle. What I need to do is somehow mount this so I can start cutting. So normally when you're doing wood turning, you use a tool rest like this. Okay, and this is what your tools rest on while you're doing your turning. Obviously this is no good because the tool I'm going to be using is this. Okay, there's no way I'm going to be able to keep this steel on here because that's dangerous. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take away the tool rest. Okay, put that to one side. And what I've got is this. Now this is normally used for when you're turning bowls. Now this is a swivel head lathe, so I can turn the headstock around. I can mount this where the tool rest used to go. Okay, put your tool rest in here, and this gives you a little bit more distance. Okay, so you can turn your bowls. Right, but as I say, I'm not using that, but I can use this. Okay, so the idea is somehow mount the angle grinder on here so I can swivel it into the workpiece. Don't try this at home. So with our tool rest extension in, obviously we want to mount the angle grinder here somewhere. What I'm going to do is take this clamp off. I think this is called a Bristol clamp, possibly. I'm going to remove that, and that exposes a threaded hole here. Okay, and the idea is I'm going to put a bolt like this one through the back Okay, so it protrudes out of here. Now this is an M8 bolt. Okay, so that sticks out of there. And then what I can try and do is somehow mount it on this, which is also an M8. So I've got to bolt that on there somehow, and then that will allow me to swivel that in an arc. Right, let's see if that works. Don't try this at home. Now, as you can see, I've now got my angle grinder mounted on one of the handle locations into my toolbar tool rest extension. So this now can pivot in an arc. Okay, so the idea is I can get it to a single point on here. Now what I've got to do is get this end of the cutting disc, okay, to the right point on the bottle. Okay, so that means I'm going to have to move the arm. Right. Okay, let's make sure that's all secure. Right, so I still haven't got my battery in here, which is a good thing because this is all dangerous enough without having a battery on. Okay, my angle grinder is secure. It's secure in the tool rest. The tool rest is secure to the bed. The bottle is secure in the chuck, and it's secure in the other chuck. Okay, this is tight, this is tight, this is tight, everything's tight. Now the idea is I can turn it by hand like this, okay, with this running, and I can cut like this. Okay, so almost ready to go. Let's plug the battery in and then see whether this actually cuts. Now this is a cutting disc. I didn't know whether to use the cutting disc or whether I should use one of these. Either of them are not really suitable for cutting glass, but let's see what happens. Gently, gently. Don't try this at home. Right, let's put a battery on. Right, so I'm about to try this. Don't try this at home. Now normally I'm a little bit lackluster in the workshop with health and safety, but for this I'm going to be wearing a face shield. I'm also going to be wearing a face mask because obviously I'm trying to cut glass. I'm also going to be wearing a pair of gloves, and I'm going to make sure I tuck away all of my usual dangly bits. Right, let's get myself PP'd up. Right, now I can't hear anything. Hearing protection. Right, can you hear me? Right, with all this on, I can't even turn the camera on because once I put my gloves on, I can't touch the screen. Right, I can edit that later. Right, let's try our first sheepish cut. Can you hear me? Okay, so I've been round once. This disc does appear to be cut in the glass, and it seems to be in a joining line, so this is looking good. Okay, let me carry on. Okay, so I quickly had to stop them because as I was turning the bottle, this end, the glass was rubbing against the metal of the chuck and it was grinding. So all I've done is I've quickly put a little bit of lubricant on there. This is stuff with PTFE in it, just to give it a little bit of lubrication. All right, let me carry on. So we're about 3/4 way through now. I don't want to rush it because you never know what's going to happen. Just keeping an eye on it. As I say, don't try this at home. All right, let's carry on. Right, a little bit of freehand here. Yeah, looks like we're getting through. We're not all the way through on all of it, but nearly there. So I've got to be careful that this doesn't actually fall off. So what I might do is put a bit of tape on here to save this from falling off. Okay, tape is now on. Let's carry on cutting this. It should be right near the end now. Hopefully nothing's going to go wrong. Right, I think what I'll do is I'll take it out and then see if I can separate it. Right, so after about 20 minutes of cutting, it's separated. I mean, it's quite rough. Obviously I don't need this bit, even though that would make a nice wine glass. But this bit is the bit I'm interested in. Right, so all I've got to do is I've got to now smooth off this edge. Let's find a way to do it. Probably just normal sandpaper, I think. But yeah, look, I'm going up with a Procecco candle. Right, let's get some sandpaper. Right, I've switched from conventional normal sort of sandpaper because obviously sand is basically glass anyway, or glass is sand. So all that's happening is it's immediately knackering the sandpaper. I've changed to wet and dry. I've got a little bit of water on here and I'm just gradually smoothing off the edge. It's taken a long time, but I'll get there in the end. I'll just carry on. Right, so I've now sanded that a little bit. It's not enough yet. I've got to do a lot more. Got to carry on with the wet and dry. But what I want to quickly do now is make a lid. So I was going to use this, but I think I'll do something a bit more interesting. Let's get a bit of wood in the lathe and quickly turn down a lid. Quick update on the lid. What I've done is I've turned the inside. I've turned a tenon here so I can actually mount it on my chuck. I've also got the inside of the lid sorted. So what I'm going to do now is mount this on the chuck that way and then turn the top. Okay, it won't be this big, it'll be something else. Right, so I just spent 20 minutes on the lathe trying to turn this, a little wine glass in the centre of the lid, and it's just snapped off. So he'll have to go without a glass. Right, so now this is cut. I've turned my lid. It's a shame about the little wine glass thing. Never mind. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a token in the top of here instead. But in the meantime, I'm going to give this to Mrs. Little Workshop and she's going to put a candle in it for me. Right, so now Mrs. Little Workshop is going to be making the candle. She's got this thing here which holds the wick. That holds it in the middle somehow. I don't know, it's magic. She's melting some of this wax. Where's the wax? It's this stuff, which is Superior Eco Soy Wax. Yeah, okay, so we're going to weigh some of that into here. This is just boiling water. Don't touch it, Frank, it's hot. And then she's going to, once that's melted, she's going to pour it into here and then we'll let it set. But we're going to put in some colour. Right, and the colour we're going to use is this stuff, which is some mica powders that I bought for the resin, but we're going to try it in the wax. Put it in here, and then like this, and it's going to burn. Right, let's let that melt. Right, the first lot's melted now. It's got a nice wee colour, which is nice. Now going to put in some of the colour in. See if we can get it to go pink. Also putting in a bit of this jasmine stuff, which is going to make it smell well nice. It's just gone straight in there as well. Right, so we're going to leave that to set now while I go and put a token in the end of there, and I can leave Mrs. Little Workshop to tidy up the kitchen. Right, so the wax is poured. I just put the token in the top, so we've got this now, which is a shame because I would like the little wine glass, but never mind. So we've got to wait for the wax to dry. So there's only one thing to do, and that's wait for the wax to dry. So that's it, it's finally done. We now have a Prosecco candle. I've got my lid that I turned. It's now got a token in it instead of the little wine glass, which is a bit of a shame. The wax is set, it's a nice pink colour. It smells very nice because we put jasmine in it. But yeah, this is just to prove the point that you can actually cut those bottles. I made a little base for it as well. It's just basically the same wood as this, but turned into a base. But all in all, I think it's a lovely thing. Okay, so that's about it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, don't try any of that at home because it is a bit dangerous. Right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye. So the idea, oh, here, I'll kick the camera. Right, let's put a battery on. Where's me key? Here it is. Right, we're now in the try that again.